Have you ever considered emojis as a pathway to or back to telepathy? We're going to explore this concept and more in today's video, friends. Welcome, friends. If you are still listening, this concept resonates at some level for you, and it definitely resonated for me when it came through earlier this year. And I've just been sitting with it, and I'm finally feeling called to share. And so the full message, as it's unfolded over time, is very simple. That emojis, GIFs or GIFs, memes, any sort of symbols or imagery that we use to communicate to one another can be seen as a pathway to or back to telepathy. I mean, if you think about it, we're building these new neural pathways of communication through symbols. If you see the image of Bernie Sanders with the mittens, it evokes a feeling in you. You kind of know what that means. Whereas if you took a time machine back into the 1980s, they may be like, oh, that's funny, but they won't get the full context of it. And that's an important point that I'll speak to in just a moment. So we communicate through symbols at this point in our digital age. And this is not anything new. If you think about ancient civilizations, hieroglyphics, a system of communication through symbols, through glyphs. We've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. And so there is this ancient primal part of us that understands symbols. Even if you can't understand hieroglyphics, there are certain symbols that you see that you at least know what it is. You may not get the full understanding, all the layers of understanding of it, but you have a general gist of like, okay, that's a person, okay, that's a cat. You have a general idea. And that is also part of this conversation, right? There are these universal symbols that most people will understand the concept of. I don't want to speak for all, of course, but most people that see a heart will understand what that heart represents. If someone sees a broken heart, many people will understand what that means. Whereas if you said heart or love or broken heart in a different language than the person speaks that you're speaking to, they may not understand what you mean. Now, if you say, I love you, and you mean it, they may feel it. And that's a really important part of this conversation is these images, these symbols evoke feeling, evoke emotion, invoke a sense of experience in the present moment. For example, let's say you are meeting with a medium, because mediums, animal communicators, oftentimes the form of communication comes from symbols and imagery. And so let's say you're meeting with a medium and they say, I don't know, I'm seeing a rotisserie chicken. Does that mean anything to you? And the person receiving that, filled with emotion. Maybe that was their last meal together. Maybe that was their favorite meal, or there's a funny story or a sad story or a silly story. Maybe all of that comes through in that one image, that one mention of a symbol through words of rotisserie chicken. Because it was specific to them, because that being in spirit knew that they would receive it in the way that it was intended. And that's an important point because you may not send the same string of emojis to your grandparent that you would to your bestie, that you would to your partner, right? All very different relationships. The symbol, the imagery that you send to someone is sent with an intention, knowing that they are going to receive this in a particular way. And I invite you to think about a time when you went to text someone back and you couldn't find the words, or maybe you didn't even try to find the words. You were like, ooh, yes, no, this is a GIF. This is a meme. this is a string of emojis. And it just flows out of you, and you can almost feel it when you're looking for it. That is the essence of this, right? Because that person then receives it. And I don't know if you've ever texted or messaged someone and they send an emoji or a GIF or a meme back to you, and you're just like, damn, they get me. It can convey something that words don't always have the power to do. And if you've ever misinterpreted a text from words, you know exactly what I mean. So emojis, GIFs, memes, any sort of symbol, imagery used to communicate, to evoke a sense of feeling, meaning, emotion, without the use of words or minimal use of words. That could be a pathway back to telepathy, to help our brains perhaps, building new neural pathways, but also maybe tapping into that part of us that already knows how to do it, that is already doing it in other dimension or realm. So I don't know if this is true, right? If this is a pathway, I'm sure it's part of a timeline, if there are infinite timelines. I'm not doing research. I don't think anyone is doing research on this, but it's an interesting way to think. And that is kind of the point of this, is just expanding what's possible, because that can help expand your consciousness. When you're in this very limited perspective of what the world is, what you are, it's limited. But when you can expand the possibilities, there is an expansion of what's possible. If you think about imagining a new color, it can be quite hard. But then when you're exposed to it, it can unlock something where your imagination can then have fun. Same point to the 4-minute mile. Nobody thought it was possible until someone did it. And then everyone started doing it. So this is just a way of expanding what's possible, expanding your consciousness, moving from the limited self into the limitless self. And so I am going to see if anything wants to come through around this. It'll probably be articulated better than I am doing so. Communication comes in many different forms in which you already use, sometimes without even acknowledging it. When you think about communication through the body language, you begin to realize that language is already beyond words. And when you can acknowledge the fact that communication is beyond words, your mind can begin to expand and play being the operative word here, into what might be possible. When you think about the information you derive from a pause after a question, you realize that you do not need words, you do not need form, you do not need images, you do not need symbols. A simple moment of silence can speak volumes. Until you stop limiting your perspective of what is, you will not be able to embody what is. So finding what resonates to hold on to, not in grasping, but to hold on to ground you, to help then allow you to expand into what is beyond what you have seen and felt and known since you have been brought into this world, into form. For you know much of what is, and yet you are not attuned to the level of consciousness that can actually allow it to be brought forth in physical form. Whether or not this is true by your scientific perspective is again something to explore in terms of what is limiting yourself from expounding from the limited self into the limitless self. For you truly are limitless. You are only limited when you believe yourself to be so. And when you identify all the ways in which you limit yourself, you understand why it can take so many lifetimes to step into, to embody, to express as and through the limitless self that you always are. Begin to notice the ways in which you limit yourself. Start there. For that will have a domino effect in allowing yourself to see the limitlessness of the potentiality and the possibility that is before you, for all. It is not for one, it is not for a group, it is for all, for it is all, you see. You cannot contain it, you can ground into it. Your body is the container, but your body is limitless. But your body can ground the energy to express out into the world. So even seeing your body beyond what and how you have seen it thus will be very pivotal in many journeys that are before you. More to come on that. We will leave with this. Be not what you think you are. Be what you are. For you all are, and everything is. And thus it must be so. We leave you now and say good day. We are with you. We love you. We are you. Expand the possibilities of who and what you are. So I was seeing a flower unfolding at that last moment there. And I'm getting that silence was important to allow those that are listening, watching, to just notice what arose in that moment for them. And you can return to it and see with a more tuned conscious awareness as to what is present. And there's more to come with that too. Okay, friends. So I'm going to leave that there, and as always, until next time. This is why I say this. This is why it came through a long time ago. I didn't realize in the moment, but it's all making sense. It's unfolding like the flower. Until next time, friends, stay curious.